What's up, guys and girls? Captain Rick Stanczyk here. Welcome to the Bud and Mary's YouTube channel. Today I want to give you a little closer look at my boat lift. It's the HydroHoist, HarborHoist, which I keep my 25-foot Contender on. You always see me sitting underneath it here. I'll give you a quick peek around here. But yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. I hadn't really ever heard of them before. I looked them up online, saw one in person, and I liked what I saw. I needed a place to put my boat because my old boat I kept in a rack. You know, those old concrete racks there that if you've been to Bud and Mary's, I'm sure you're familiar with. But my new boat was too big to fit in there, so I needed some kind of solution to be able to lift it out of the water. I just don't like leaving my boat in the water overnight. I'm worried about it sinking. Also, you just get a lot of growth and discoloration on your bottom and always have to tend to that. And we were hoping to not have to put, you know, permanent pilings in, and this proved to be a good option for that. It's also movable, so you can move it from slip to slip. So yeah, I'm going to go into a few of the other things I like about it here, and we'll take a closer look. Alright, so here's the control box. This is what kind of powers this whole thing. Basically just a vacuum pump that fills these big containers here, these big polyurethane tanks, with air, and that lifts this boat up and gets her out of the water. And there's a rack underneath, which I'll show you a closer little bit when I get the boat off of it, that the boat just sits on, basically like a trailer bunk, you know, with two big stringers that the boat sits on, and sits there nicely, and then it gets the whole hull out of the water. And then to go down, it fills with water to let you down. Just give you a quick demonstration here. Simple as press the down button. Alright, so we're down in the water now. It only takes maybe 3 or 4 minutes to get the boat down, so it's pretty quick. You don't have to wait too long. It also has auto leveling, which is really cool, so if one side starts going down too fast, after a few seconds, you know, it'll stop and let the rest of the boat come down. So everything stays level, you don't get too tippy, turned over. So very cool. It's also nice because you can stop it wherever you want. So a lot of times, like right now, I'll stop it where the boat's still sitting on the rack and not going to move, but is down in the water, so you could run your live well pumps or something like that, and just let the rack go down a little bit more to get off and get going for your day. Now, as an extra option, I had them put this really nice heavy-duty car canopy top on here, which gives you nice shade when you're cleaning the boat in the afternoon. It was one of the big selling points for me, and it was put on here really nice. Nothing sticks out too much. There's a lot of clearance, so you don't have any problem getting on with your rods, and the top goes up and down with the lift itself. The height is adjustable if you wanted to make it higher or lower, and it's held up really good. I've had the lift for a year and a half now, because I got the lift a little bit before I got the boat, because the boat took longer than expected. But it's held up great. Nothing's torn or ripped on this roof, and it's really held up. It's just held on by little bungee things there, so you can pull those tight and replace them if necessary. So not a big deal to replace that top if you ever needed to, but it's going strong after a year and a half. I think I'll get a few more years out of it without issue. I added a few things in here, like I put a light, I got a pressure washer there, I have an aeration system for my live wells to keep my live bait in there. I also have a couple of aquarium pumps that hang in the water in that bucket there. And we just put some power from my shed. I got an extension cord running from the shed that just runs up here, plugs in there. So there's a little bit of mess of stuff there, but haven't had any issues. Once in a while a breaker trips when something gets a little wet, or if I'm running the pressure washer and the lift at the same time. But yeah, no issues. And I can also plug my boat in to charge it at night right there. Now these things come standard with these runways here that you can step on if you ever want to step outside and clean the hull of your boat, or just to step on and off. I try to avoid loading people on here. I usually pull up to the other dock to load my clients because it's a little tricky getting on and off, and especially when this thing is down and you step on here, a lot of times it's going to sink down and your feet will get wet because there's just so much weight, you know, in the tubs at that point. This lift was also a little bit overloaded by the time we got everything all said and done. This lift, I believe, was rated for 4,400 pounds. The dry weight of this boat was 3,600 pounds, but by the time you add fuel, trolling motor, trolling batteries, this top that they put on here, coolers, and all the other junk you got in here, the lift is able to get the boat totally out of the water, but the frame is still hanging in the water just a little bit, which isn't a problem. We ended up putting a zinc on the metal, just since the metal sits in the water all the time, just for a little added precaution, you know, safety measure. But I'll show you that closer in a minute. Alright, so as you can see here now, we have the lift sunk down with the boat off of it, and this is just how this thing sits. One thing I kind of have to do when I leave, I have to put just a little bit of air in my lift just to lift it up a tad, because as I said, we kind of overloaded this lift, and with this top on here, it just pushes everything down here a little bit more. So I'll show you. I took my shoes off just in case, though, how this thing will want to sink down on you, but with that little bit of extra air in there, it doesn't let it go all the way down. But you can see it gets a little tippy, you know, from one end to the other. So something I just found you have to watch, but after having the lift for a little bit, I figured that out. So yeah, this all just sinks underwater here. You can see that the stringers there, they extended them in the front a little bit since my boat is extra long for what would normally go in a lift this size, and goes right out to back there. I'm going to lift it up here for you, and we'll show you what it looks like out of the water. And how you know this thing is all the way up, I'll show you here what happens. That is all the excess air getting expelled out of there. When you see that happening and you hear that, you know the tank is full. So that just kind of lets you know. Alright, and so this is the lift fully up without a boat on it, and you can see how much higher that metal gets up out of there. And that's kind of what I was talking about there. These pieces of metal that run across and hold the runners there up that hold the boat are in the water all the time, again because the boat and everything with the top on here, the lift's slightly overloaded. So you can see back in the very back there, I put that zinc right in the middle there, just for a little electrolysis protection. Got to change that out every 4 to 6 months. Also, of course, this thing gets some pretty gnarly growth on it, being in hot South Florida. So usually every, again, probably 4 months or so, when I'm doing an oil change, I'll come down here and just pressure clean this baby off. Try to get as much as I can. I think that probably just helps keep the weight of the thing down, keeping the growth off of there, and just makes it look a little better too. But all in all, this thing's held up great. I haven't had any issues with it really. They've assured me too, you know, if you ever lost power or your motor went out here, you can disconnect these hoses and just let the air out and the lift will sink down. It's not high pressure or anything, so it's not dangerous to do that, is what I was told. But yeah, everything's been pretty good. It's a pretty fail-safe option. I know these guys said they had boats go through hurricanes on these things without tops on them, of course, and they said the boats did great. So yeah, I don't think I'll leave my boat in here during a hurricane, but I might just throw it on this thing and drag it into the mangroves where we dock the rest of them. All right, and you can kind of see here, like I said, I keep a little bit of air in this lift. I don't keep it all the way down, so you kind of have to drive the boat up onto it a little bit. It's also nice because it kind of helps the boat stop when you pull in here. Only drawback to this type of lift as opposed to a floating dock is that there's nothing to stop you when you pull into it. So if you have a lot of current like we do here in the back corner of this marina, you just kind of have to come into it hot. But with a little bit of air in the bottom there, you kind of drive up onto the rack there and it slows the boat down. So you don't have to just come in there like a pinball bouncing around everywhere so much. So I'll show you here now. Just have to give it a little bit. And you get right up where you need to be. That looks good. Alright guys, so final thoughts on the HarborHoist boat lift from Tidewater Boat Lifts. For me, it's been excellent. It's super safe because there's no lines or pulleys where your boat is hanging from, like with a normal rack or davits, so you don't have to worry about something snapping and breaking and hurting your boat, or worse, hurting you or someone else. So none of that stuff. Again, if power goes out, you can always manually disconnect those lines to get your boat down. Like I said, I kind of went in blind. I had read about them online. I looked at one and I pulled the trigger, said, hey, this looks right for me. And I gotta say, I've been really happy. I haven't really had any issues. It's been maintenance free and it's really worked good for me. And the only thing you might be concerned about would be if you had a lot of current and you were trying to pull your boat into an area and you didn't want to ding around at all. You might have to investigate things a little bit further, but all in all, I'm really happy with it. And I have a fair bit of current where I dock my boat. Not as bad as where I originally was going to put it, which was over here, but we got tucked in closer here to the barn, and it's been good. I bop around a little bit sometimes when the wind and the tide are really ripping together, but over time you kind of get it down and you're able to manage it and not beat yourself up and your boat up too bad. So it's been great. I love it, and hey, make sure to give me a thumbs up on the video if you like it, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. I've been working on it a lot now, and I plan to continue to do so these next few months while we don't have a whole lot to do. So we'll be doing more of this, guys. All right, take care.